We are coming to an end of our panel discussion, and I would...
Takeaway is that the planet has been challenged by unprecedented crisis, a global crisis, and I think the solution is a global solution. I'm hopeful it will come. I see that G20 is bringing a very powerful agenda which must be executed. Underneath, we still have some issues, as we discussed, in the financial architecture or in the world. And I think those tests and challenges should be a call for rally and try to take out of the system the key poison that we have. I mentioned a few of them: opacity, fragmentation. But it may be, at the end of the day, a chance for the planet to grow all together, and especially when you have emerging countries so powerful, Russia, China, India, joining the global economy.
Thomas?
My sense is that with a relatively simple title, we have entered into a very complex debate. And I think what I would draw from this is a downside and an upside. The downside is, I think, even the brightest minds, those who are sitting next to me, have difficulties to really understand what is going on in this world. The upside is that the discussions are much less ideological, much more open, much more in the mind of what can we learn from each other and which items might we as politicians, as bankers, as entrepreneurs have underestimated these last years, that insofar there is a new climate of openness in these kind of debates, and this is probably the only fertile ground for coming to better solutions.
Christine, in the new world, people would say politics have the last word, so I will take you at the end. Jim?
I would say continue to pay attention to the two big trends of the capital shift and the demographic shift we've all talked about. Those have been accelerated by this crisis, not decelerated or postponed. And I think if we stay coordinated in a global context and how we regulate the financial sector, if we stay coordinated in a global context in how we encourage entrepreneurship and innovation and job growth and recreation, I think we'll come through this fine.
Gérard?
Yes, Klaus, I would like to react to the poll about the Russian finance and to give you an information. In my capacity of chairman of Paris Europlace, which is the equivalent in Paris, for the Paris Financial Center, the equivalent of the financial city of London, the City of London. We will sign this afternoon an agreement, a cooperation between the Paris Financial Center and the Moscow Financial Center with the government of the city of Moscow in order to share experiences in the field of financial services development, financial markets, debt management, securities law, market infrastructure. And therefore I am optimistic about the development of the Russian finance, and if I have had the device, I would have voted in the first 33% for the rapid growth of the Russian finance. I consider that this agreement is the expression of the strong willingness of the government of Russia to transform the Moscow financial place into a truly international and global financial center, able to attract regional and international finance. And this morning, President Medvedev has developed strongly this ambition, which I consider as appropriate and reasonable. And we are pleased, therefore, at Paris Europlace, at Paris, to become a partner of the Moscow Financial Center and to accompany this ambition.
Jamie?
I heard a lot of legitimate concerns and fears and issues across the whole spectrum of things, from energy to financial regs to governments and euro, et cetera, and they're all valid. So that's one thing. The second is, what I think we should all look at is what really gets us through this is, I think, just three simple things. One is leadership, and I'm talking about business, politicians, elected officials, central banks, and their determination. I don't look at the determination just of the leaders now. I think the population. I think a lot of populations, vote for things. The United States hasn't had an energy policy. We need an energy policy. You can't blame that on the leaders. You got to blame that on the citizens. And the leadership has to be do the next following two things. It can't be populism. It can't be jazzing up the anger of the people and somehow that's going to get us to the right place. It's got to be based on facts and analysis. Life is not binary. I always hear kind of binary answers to everything here. Albert Einstein said, make things as simple as possible, but no simpler. Facts and analysis will get us there. And the last thing is process. That, you can do the first two, but if you don't have something set up properly that will get you can see clearly will get you to success, you don't set it up for success, you're not going to have it. And I think these things are taking place today, though, obviously we'll all be judging that as we read the paper every morning. But I'm a little more optimistic than most that we'll do the things that get us to where we need to go.
Joe?
I think the four questions I heard most in the last 2 days here in Russia were the following. If you were on a roadshow for Europe and the euro somewhere in the world, people would ask you, is your executive board united or do you have different agendas? Secondly, are you determined to do the cost cutting, speak the fiscal deficit reduction, which you are announcing? Thirdly, tell us more about hidden risks in your balance sheet, namely transparency. And the fourth one, how about the future architecture, the economic governance of the Eurozone, knowing that you have one currency, one monetary policy, but multiple fiscal and economic policies. And I think what we have heard in this panel was very important, what Christine said. First of all, since May 9th, we are making progress. We are speaking much more with one voice in strengthening and defending the euro and the Eurozone concept. Secondly, what you hear from Prime Minister Papandreou, Zapateros and others, they even sacrificed their own political career in order to say we are going to implement what we are announcing, and that is increasing credibility of the measures substantially. Thirdly, as we heard, we will have a stress testing disclosed, which is a very important mean of an instrument of stopping this bad-mouthing about risks of major European banks. And fourth, I think it's a very important initiative Christine Lagarde has alluded to, namely that we are talking about coordinating better economic governance in Europe. And all four things together are the best message to the world and also to Russia, that we are determined in Europe, in the Eurozone, to defend and strengthen the euro and the Eurozone concept. And I think that is the most important questions right now, at least for this part of the world.
Herman?
Well, I will tell you a very short story. In 1993, three guys met, three Nobel laureates in the area of economy and mathematics, and created a big fund and called it LTS, long-term capital management. And they knew the mathematical formulas, they knew everything about normal distribution, and they definitely knew that the spreads must contract. But they didn't know that there is such a country as Russia that in 1998 would declare default. And when the spreads were supposed to contract in 1998, somehow it didn't happen because Russia came up with such an idea to announce default. And so this LTSM with three Nobel laureates collapsed and ended up in a hole of $3 billion. That was the first butterfly effect in the world, the first global butterfly effect. Nowadays, when in Spain some little average bank declares that it's got problems and its stock is going down 3%, whereas my stock is going down 7%, and in one day I'm losing $10 billion in my capitalization, I reminisce about this experience of 1998 and this first butterfly in the world of sorts. Financial world was the first one to become global. We are strongly interrelated to each other. We absolutely depend upon each other. And what Christine mentioned is very much appealing to me, because we've got to undertake coordinated action. We've got to understand that we all live in one big home, and that all of us, being respectful of each other, being interested in each other, look for general rules of the game, and that the regulation of financial and business area is ever increasingly becomes the kind of a competence that is not only in the hands of the government, and the sooner we acknowledge it.
Central and Eastern Europe and thinking, oh my gosh, that's where it's going to collapse next. And it was much further south that we had a bit of a crisis. And we talk a lot about scarcity of resources, and we all think about energy. And what have we talked about? We've talked about talent. So my first takeaway is we'd better have a very solid watch and alert system on a global basis to watch where the next butterfly is going to be. And we'd better know that it's not going to be the one that we suspect it's going to be. My second takeaway, and I can't help it, Klaus, but today is the 70th anniversary of the appel du général de Gaulle du 18 juin à la résistance. And I think that it's only appropriate that we celebrate resilience as much as was celebrated resistance, to make sure that a small minority does not endanger a very, very large majority.
Thank you, Minister. We covered many issues. We had a fascinating discussion and a great panel. Please join me in expressing our appreciation for our panelists.